Hey, we are live on Facebook and YouTube right now. We need you in the chat, so make sure you type away and join in. We've got a bunch of questions that have come from people, Suze, that have written through some big dilemmas, some funny stories on the way, but it's all better when you are when you're getting involved as well.
Absolutely. We'd love to hear from you.
So we're going to do this, our Luke and Susie Discourse Live, hanging out together for the next little bit and giving away some prizes as we go through as well. So make sure you stay in touch and be a part of trying to win. We're going to get into our Luke and Susie Discourse Live. The Luke and Susie quotable in just moments, and it's talking about insanity.
It's Luke and Susie with Faith, Family, Culture. Luke and Susie with you. We're broadcasting from Greece.
The wise words of someone from yesteryear. Suze, we're going to get into some opportunities for people to win some stuff, just getting to know you, giving away some prizes. We're going to do that. But also, we got some big issues and big topics to talk through and get resolved.
Yeah, some of them are fun, some of them are heavy today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's start with David's question.
Mm-hmm.
David's asked, when and what situation have you ever stepped in for someone? For example, like helped out their cause. Our boys came home from school the other day and told us that there was a fight at the handball courts where one kid, and it seemed to get pretty physical and violent and brutal. And so they're telling me all the details of the story. I said, well, did you do anything? Did you step in? Did you help out? And one of them, he was honest with his answer. One said, I wasn't there. The other one said, yeah, I kind of didn't really know what happened until one kid really started to scream. And then he and his mates all jumped in and were a part of stopping it. But he was most joyful because he was also involved in telling the teacher everything that they saw. So he was happy to stand up for justice in the end. Suze, have you ever jumped in and helped out someone's cause?
I found this a really tricky one to answer because I think there's, when you get to my age, of course, you've got an accumulation of stories of times that people have stepped in to help you, but also times you've stepped in to help others. So I think about, helping people move. I helped a friend promote a book when she was struggling with that. I'm not quite sure what kind of cause to...
Well, see, the first thing that came to mind for me was fights. And there was a moment where I was umpiring an indoor cricket game. It was a mixed game, guys and girls playing, and they started off as a bit of a verbal argument, and then the game stopped, and there were two people that started to get physical with each other, and I jumped down off the chair and started to run into the court to try and help break it up, but then they started to go me. I'm like, all right,
common enemy unifying them. Good job, Luke. Good job.
Yeah, that was it. That was what I was going for. And, some of the violence and the feral language, and let's not even talk about the guys. That was just the females in the game. It was brutal. It was mixed and everybody was all in. And I just went, the last time I'm jumping down off the umpire's chair.
It's interesting that your mind went straight to fights.
It did.
Just for stepping in and doing something to help.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's just the youth I had. But I did also think about times when we had someone who knew that they sort of were being called to our town, and so we jumped in and offered them free accommodation and helped them settle their feet. I think there are times when we have done all sorts of stepping in, and just it's easy to forget. So let's get some thoughts. Let's get some other people's experiences about when you have stepped in, or maybe someone has stepped in to help your cause. Let's get some stories.
All right, let's get some thoughts on this. David, let's start with you. When have you stepped in to help somebody with their cause?
We've got you muted there, Dave.
Is that better?
That's it. Gotcha.
Yeah. Actually not stepping in for a cause, but back in the 1980s, whilst in the army, I witnessed a truck smashing into a car, and I U-turn, went back, and car was on fire. So I jumped out with my fire extinguisher, put the fire out, and because it was the driver's side door, I couldn't get to the driver in the car, so I had to break the rear passenger window to open the passenger side door to get in there. She'd hit the steering wheel and had sliced her forehead open. So I kept her alive till the ambulance arrived, and then went into traffic direction. And stepping up and putting out the fire and keeping her alive.
Yeah, so
really good that you were there.
Makes my running away from a mixed indoor cricket game fight sound pretty lame compared to that.
It's not. It doesn't
Yeah.
really compare at all.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
No.
Good on you, Dave.
But Luke, it's what you want to do. It's what you need to do.
Yeah. Well, that was
Right?
the situation.
Everyone's different.
That
That's
was
true.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
We can't all be there in the middle of a fight at an indoor cricket game. That's for special.
And you can't be in a car accident. You don't know when
Yeah.
a car accident's going to happen.
Exactly
don't.
right.
You've got to react to what's going on right now.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for
You
being
can't-
lovely to me, Dave. That's nice.
It's unusual,
Usual,
isn't it? Susie, how about you?
Well, I'm helping my friend find her missing cat today. She has a cat that's very precious to her and it's gone missing. That's actually why I'm late to this meeting, because she came to my house to give me some posters to hand out because she can't walk very well. She's got lots of disabilities and this cat is kind of her world. And she's like, please help me. So I'm going to go do some door knocking and hand out some flyers. And hopefully the cat will get back.
Fantastic.
That's
lovely.
well done.
Thank you for finding the time to join us.
Yeah, goodness,
Stepping in
all
for
over the
everybody.
place. All over the place. Marilyn, when have you stepped in for someone and helped them out? Oh, I think.
Have we got you, Marilyn? Nope.
Oh, just having trouble with the
That's
connection
right. We're
there.
just losing Marilyn. Caroline, when have you stepped in and helped out someone's cause?
This one, it was a couple of years ago. I was out to lunch with some friends and she got a phone call saying that her partner, they were involved in domestic violence. He was trashing her house. So we didn't let her go home and we put her up for about a month at our place until the police were able to remove him from the premises. I'd only known her about a month or so. And her and her daughter lived with us for about a month until it all got fixed.
Yeah, wow. It's huge.
Which is the moment you talked about this, and it wasn't anything as dramatic as that, but it just triggered this memory when you talked about relationships. When I'd broken up with my girlfriend at the time, we'd been going out for just over 2 years, 2 years, 3 months, 12 days, and 14 and a half hours to be exact. And it was a Sunday afternoon. Clearly, I was a little heartbroken that I even calculated that, let alone remembered it. But my mate, who lived 2 hours drive away, when I told him, without me knowing, he drove that 2 hours that Sunday night and he rocked up unexpected to church and he was just there just to put his arm around me. He could stay for about 45 minutes and then he drove 2 hours back so he can go to bed and get up for work. And when someone steps in ways like that, no matter how big or small it is, there's something special for it.
Yeah.
About it. Well, that's a great question. This is great to explore because
really good question.
I'm sure we've all done it, but we can all remember when somebody else has done it for us as well. And so a great exploration to think about and cherish and remember those times when the stepping in has happened. It's a heart and soul of what Luke and Susie is about. So Maria has asked Suze a very fascinating question. I like it.
It's a great question. And it's funny because I don't think I've ever answered this question before, but being confronted with it, I've suddenly realized there's probably a bit of a difference between my values and my actions here.
Yeah.
Because Maria asked, marriage counseling, should everyone do this?
And the answer, I think, on a top level for most people is, well, yeah, obviously.
I mean, if you're married.
Well, it's, okay. Yeah, of course. I mean, I figured that was an assumption of the caveat for doing marriage counselling. But so we say yes, but we've never been to marriage counselling.
No, we haven't. We did the
counselling
pre-marriage counselling, and then we've done we've seen psychologists individually, but not together. But I do actually think when you've got that kind of a significant relationship, and yes, it can be marriage counselling, but I also think sometimes in parent-child relationships, this can be helpful counselling to do. I've had friends who've had housemates and they've ended up doing counselling together to resolve particular issues. I think when there's significant relationships that matter to you and that are going to be a part of your life forever and things aren't going great, absolutely, I think it's important. But I also think it's good preventatively, just for the purposes of everything can always be that little bit better. So why not invest to make the relationship as good as it can be?
We take our car to the mechanics for a tune-up. And it doesn't mean that the car's broken or broken down. It just it's we're looking after it. Why don't we do the same thing with marriage? And I think maybe there's just been a stigma of, you go to a marriage counselor when you're broken, and so therefore you're admitting we're broken. and that seems like a last resort. But why don't we do this? And so we're assuming most people are going to say yes, but is it experience of what we've done or what we've seen, or what have been some of the results? So let's explore this. Marriage counselling. Should everyone do this? Deb, what do you think?
If you're talking about the pre-marriage counselling before you actually get married, I think that's it's almost a requirement of a church, I think, anyway. But as far as the rest of it is concerned, look, I'm with you, Luke, that it doesn't hurt for anybody to seek extra advice, help, input, especially if you don't have family supports or like role models that you can look back on, or any mentors in your life. I don't think that you can make it compulsory and say everyone should have to do it or go, because there's so many people who would say, I would rather run 1,000 miles than go and see somebody and tell them something's bothering me. But I really think more needs to be done around the stigma that's attached to seeking help for anybody, whether it's psychologists, for yourself, for your family, for your children, as a whole family together. It wouldn't worry me. I would go if I needed to go, or if I felt I needed help, I would definitely do that, because once you join together and you want to be joined together forever, or I do anyway. Yeah.
In an interview that we've done recently with a couples counsellor, she basically categorized the problems that couples go through into two different categories. And she said one is betrayal. It's the forms of abuse and faithfulness an issue. That there's an action of betrayal. Everything else is communication. Everything else is understanding or misunderstanding, or it's actually about how we communicate, which is the concept of going to see a counselor when you're not broken is about, isn't it just about refining that communication to make sure we're on the same page, that when I say something and when you hear it, that we're actually saying and hearing the same things. That sounds like a real win to me.
I think the other thing is that there's a number 3 to that, if I could be so bold as to suggest it, that it's actually dying to self.
Yeah.
You have to put the other person, and your life is, yes, it's there, but it's not about self anymore. It's about someone else. Yeah. And so you have to set aside self. Yeah. Even when you're a parent, you set aside self. So in any relationship, you have to set a certain amount of yourself aside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
And it's funny when you say that, because I think we often think that means that we put our needs aside, but it's about putting forward theirs, isn't it? And it's about being willing to say the tough stuff that's actually the most loving thing for them at the time. Yeah. That's brilliant, Deb. I love it.
We had an experience recently, Susie. It wasn't about couples counselling. It was individual counselling for me. And I came back with an epiphany that the counsellor had, or I got from what he said, which was understanding the different hats I wore. And then it helped to identify a trigger of high emotion for me and how I behave in that environment, which we then sort of unravel into all these moments in the past of our relationship and realized that these things that I was doing and saying was a trigger, but every time I responded in that trigger, I triggered your childhood trigger.
Yes.
And once we had this understanding, then it made every point of conflict from that point on so much easier to work through, because we understood what was behind each other's actions rather than assuming.
Exactly. Marriage counselling is what married couples should do.
I think it's the best thing ever. My husband always says, if you're human, you need help. And it's helped me so much to see that psychology is personal training for your brain, and I have a much richer life before it. And I think me and my husband are still married because we've had counselling many times over the years, actually. And I think what it is, it's reflection. You're reflecting on yourselves and how you live, and then you're being empowered. You're being equipped with tools to put into practice to help love each other better and communicate better and have that understanding, and it helps our whole family.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not just about the couple relationship.
Yeah, and destigmatize it, because I know people right now. And I also know friends who would benefit so much from counselling if it had less stigma. So destigmatize it, I reckon, and just do it.
Beautiful.
Bring it on.
Thank you. It's such a good question. Dave, I'm going to come to you on this, knowing this has been a hard area for you. Do you think marriage counselling is something that everyone should do?
We'll get you to unmute again, Dave.
Yep. Marriage counselling is a good idea, but it only works if both parties are going to participate. It's no good one party going and being able to talk about the issues when the other side doesn't get a chance to answer those issues or to their issues on the table, so that the person that is undergoing the counselling is fully aware of, as Luke and Susie said, the triggers.
Yeah.
And that's the big problem, that I came home and found that after 31 years of marriage, my wife had disappeared whilst I was out at a medical appointment and doesn't want to talk, doesn't want to get counselling, doesn't want to do anything. And that's the hard part, because I've been seeing a counsellor for my military issues, and he's trying to help me through these situations at the moment. But as I said, it only works if both parties are involved, because unless the other party is willing to listen and put their point of view across, then it's just going to continue. It's like screaming through a brick wall.
Well, there is.
And it
I
just
mean,
makes
that's
it hard.
the point. And I acknowledge that. It probably makes the lightheartedness of me talking to the couples counsellor on our show by myself a little bit flippant when I said, of course, all the issues I have with Susie are her fault, right?
Yeah.
And the counsellor agreed with me and said, yes, absolutely, that's true. It's all Susie. You're perfect. And so I've got it on record, Suze.
I'd like to review that audio.
It's there. I might need to chop some context out. But everything I said was true. She said that. Now, you don't have to worry about what she said afterwards. But she said that.
I think I do. But we'll deal with that later.
All right, we've got a question from Chris, which Chris has asked an evil question.
Chris has asked a brilliant question.
No, he hasn't. No, he hasn't. It's evil. It's horrible. It's going to send some of us rolling backwards in our eating healthy. Because Chris has asked, is there a treat that you miss because it's no longer manufactured, or the recipe has changed or something? And it sort of started me thinking about everything from my childhood. And it started me thinking about Rolos. Do you remember Rolos?
Yeah.
I don't see them. Like I see some versions of Rolos still around, but I haven't seen the Lifesaver style tube of Rolos for a long time. Little caramel gooey filled deliciousness. Good milk bottles, Suze. Like you can still get them, but they're harder to find. There's milk bottles in a lot of places of lollies, but there's a perfect right texture milk bottle. And the one place I used to be able to find them, and even then not so much anymore, was a Night Owl. And so I used to go to Night Owl constantly, and I would be the milk bottle guy. I just get a packet of their pick and mix milk bottles.
All milk bottles.
Yeah. But no, I'm not finished yet.
Okay.
Fads. And I know that they changed their name to something else, but I just remember as a kid buying these fads and, was pretending to smoke, but they were delicious.
Yeah, they were.
Beautiful little musky mint kind of lollies. It's great. Push Pops. Do you remember Push Pops? I don't know if they still make them, but I haven't seen them for years. But I used to be obsessed with Push Pops. And I know they still make this last one that I'm going to say, last one for now, but I don't see them very many places. And when I do, I get very excited. I think 7-Eleven might still stock them.
Right.
Chomps.
Oh, I love Chomps.
The wafer, caramelly.
Yeah, great.
Thin, small. They were always great because they were cheap. They were the cheapest of all of them because there was actually not much to them. That and Curly Whirlies. They were the cheapest ones because basically half of them didn't exist. But so delicious.
Wow, you've really enjoyed this question.
Yeah.
And we're out of time.
That's all we got time for. Anything you remember that you missed?
Okay, yeah, I remember going to the pool and they would have they were like a little chew type bar, but and half of it was vanilla and half of it was chocolate, but I can't remember what they were called.
Right.
But they were delicious. And then Herbert Adams frozen donuts.
Frozen donuts?
Yeah, there was like a chocolate flavor, there was jam, and there was cinnamon, and they came in a box.
Frozen donuts. I've never heard of them.
Yeah, I had them when I was growing up.
That's because you're so much older than me.
It
They
was
must have
a
stopped
real
before I was.
treat. Let me tell
Yeah,
you, it was
yeah.
a real treat
Frozen
when we would get
donuts?
these. Yes, and I would like them when they were mostly thawed, but not completely.
Right.
Yeah, the
Frozen-
chocolate iced ones. That's the ones I like.
Caroline, anything that isn't made anymore, or maybe they've changed the recipe that you miss?
Yes, but first, everything you mentioned, Luke, you can still get. And the fads, the only difference is they don't have the red tip, so they're not a smoke anymore.
Right.
But everything else you can still get. We get them all the time.
The Rolos.
Yeah, I'll have to send them to you. Yes, you can still get Rolos in the tube thing.
Really?
Mm.
Because I've seen
Yeah,
them. do like a
We
packet
actually
of-
bought some for the kids' advent calendars this year, last Christmas.
They were
Yeah.
great. And they're good. They're good because they're easy to share with multiple kids without
Yeah,
everyone
because
having.
you shared.
Yeah, you can pop a couple. Yeah, no, I'm not saying I did.
No, but you could.
Could.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I miss Sunny Boys and Mates.
Oh, Sunny
Oh,
Boys.
Sunny Boys. I think sometimes you can still get those at like the
Supermarkets.
No, the Eka.
Like the reject shops and stuff.
And when the big exhibition shows go, like the Royal Show, when it
Right,
goes around,
yeah.
I think sometimes they
Yeah, I
have
think-
still had
I
the
think
Sunny
that,
Boy.
like a lot of them, they're still being made in some niche markets, but they're just not necessarily at all the places that you're used. They used to.
Yeah.
So what the mate you said? What's mate?
Mates. They were like a really hard square caramel covered in chocolate. And you used to get them at the local milk bar. They were like 5 cents, or actually they were 2 cents, and then they were 5 cents.
It's like cobbers. I used to have cobbers.
Cobbers.
Yeah, they were like cobbers, but a bit smaller and harder.
Mm.
Remember when you go, and I remember taking 1 and 2 cent coins out of my dad's ashtray and going to the shop and getting a whole packet of mixed lollies where some of them were like 5 for 2 cents and like ridiculous. Like you couldn't even fathom the prices.
I had a really bad lisp when I was little, and I used to go to the milk bar and ask for 10 cents worth of mixed lollies, please.
Yes, 10 cents worth of mixed lollies.
Yeah,
Exactly
nice.
right. I reckon the mate and the cobbers are very similar.
Do you remember the White Knight?
Oh, yes, the White Knight. Yeah.
That's
This
another
is
one.
ridiculous. This is not good for our health to reminisce over this stuff.
No.
But let's keep doing it. Let's keep doing
Let's
it
do
anyway.
it anyway. Deb, anything you remember?
Oh, definitely. First, yes, you can still buy chomps and curly whirlies in the supermarkets. Secondly, yes, the White Knights. I remember those, but maybe showing my age a little bit. Lollies were 2 for 1 cent, and we'd take an empty bottle down to the shop with us and hand it over and say, you know, that got you 10 cents worth of things, which 2 for 1 cent, you'd end up with a huge bag.
Yeah.
But I really miss the original flavour of Smith's chicken chips.
Oh.
Because it has changed.
Yeah.
And when I really used to love eating chips, they were in boxes. So I may be showing my age a lot, but they didn't come in a packet. They came in a box. And the original Smith's chicken chips, I miss that flavour so much.
Yeah.
For sure.
The original Smiths sort of flavors. So the barbecue Smiths, and you can still get them, but Samboy. I mean, the Samboy
Yes.
barbecue. You can still get them occasionally, not always at the supermarket, and they're often just slightly off to the side from the regular chips, and they're not the full size. And I'm like, oh, every now and then I see it and I go, oh my gosh, I don't like. It's been years, and then I'll grab a packet every now and then, because it's just my childhood was in those Samboy barbecues.
Nice. Very good. Well, let's go to Susie on this one as well. Susie, is there any recipe that's no longer manufactured?
There used to be an ice cream taco with like chocolatey on the edge, and it was all sweet, and it was in a packet. And I used to. Do you remember that? Is that only me?
I don't.
I saw a picture of it on the internet the other day, and I was like, "Oh, I want one!" And then I had this dream that I was paying $44 for one. Yeah. So.
If you really wanted it.
Yeah. And thankfully,
they had the in a row, and it's all really wrapped plastic, like a
Rectangles.
Yeah,
Yeah, delish. And Turkish delights are still the same, which is good. But do you remember how they used to come in a little cardboard tray wrapped in paper? I really enjoyed that and unwrapping them. However, my husband is really happy that they're now wrapped in foil. He actually prayed for that to happen. He's crazy about Turkish delights. They're his favourite of all food. And he wanted them to be wrapped in foil so he could shove them up his wetsuit sleeve so that he could go surfing for like 8 hours at a time. And then after 4 hours, you whip out the Turkish delight that is waterproof and eat it. And then you can go for another 4 hours when the waves are really epic.
He prayed.
He prayed for them to become wrapped in waterproof. Yep.
Wow. And prayers.
It got answered. See, it used to be a Mars bar. He used to shove a Mars bar up there. But what he really wanted was a Turkish delight.
The original ice cream taco.
Nice.
I've never seen them before, but they look like something I would eat.
Yeah, you
given
would.
half the chance.
Absolutely.
Mm,
Yeah.
that looks delicious.
Quite delicious.
Sammy, coming from South Africa background, I'm sure you've got things that are quite unique. Is there anything from your childhood that you can't have, which I would imagine would be a lot being in a different country, that you kind of miss?
Well, the one thing that I'm excited for is every year on my birthday, my mom sends me all of the lollies that you can't get here. So what you were saying with the milk bottles, the South African milk bottles are colourful. They're multiple flavors or in a pack, and they're delightful.
Yeah.
And then also hard shell Easter eggs. So it's like candy coated.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had them as a kid, but I don't see them very much these days. Yeah.
South African shop. But I will tell you
Yeah.
they don't taste the same because obviously they fly here or ship, and then it's just too much time by close to salt.
Yeah. Do you know there's a South African foods shop just in town, just 10 minutes drive away?
Yes. Yeah. And I learned that getting something for you, and I was like, oh, I'm going to keep that.
I remember losing a tooth to one of those hard shell Easter eggs.
I lost a
Yeah.
tooth to a fantail.
Yeah. If you've got something loose there, those fantails will rip it out. It's like the blue tack for the mouth. Just unbelievable.
As we wrap that up, we should actually just take a minute to acknowledge it is South Africa lolly season because it was just Sammy's birthday. Happy birthday! We're so grateful to get to work with you.
So just address all lolly gifts for Sammy to Luke. Care of Luke, and I'll pass them on.
It's quality testing, really.
Yeah, that's it. It's just doing a professional courtesy. That's everything it's all about. All right, Suze, we've still got. Before we get to some of the other listed subjects, can I throw something spontaneously into the mix here?
Now,
I saw a post on Facebook that said, "What animal have you been chased by? That's not a dog." And I'm like, that's interesting to try and think about. And I got chased by a wasp one time. Well, it felt like I was being chased by a wasp, but I was flailing my arms and ducking and screaming, and because I've been bitten by a wasp on the ear, and that was not a pleasant experience. And I don't know if the wasp actually really cared that I was there, but it felt like he did, and he had a grudge, and he was out to get me. And I've been chased by a dog, a pretty vicious German Shepherd that hit the end of the chain while I fell over. It was a pretty dramatic scene. I was trespassing and doing some criminal stuff. So, like, we won't go into a great lot of detail
let's not go into
on that incident. But have you ever been chased by an animal that's not a dog?
A seal.
A seal.
Remember when I went swimming with the seals? My sister bought the gift for me, and by the time I actually went, I was pregnant with twins, early in pregnancy with twins, and I wore the black wetsuit that you have to wear, and it was in the very chilly waters of Victoria. And
he thought you were one of them.
And I got in, and it started coming at me, and I freaked out. And you're like, "No, stay there. Let it come up to you from the safety of the boat."
Safety. I had a 1.5-year-old who I was constantly stopping from going overboard. There was nothing safe about that experience for me whatsoever. That was the most traumatic and dramatic experience I've ever had, trying to keep our firstborn child from going overboard.
Goodness me.
Wow, it sounds like we had a great time. Hey, I also have been not chased because I never had to run and I had nowhere to run, but I would have in another scenario. But what's the cassowary?
Oh, yeah.
It was at a zoo and there was a fence between us, but he was not happy with me.
Pretty but nasty, those birds.
And he came for me, and I let's just say I had to change my clothes afterwards. It was very scary.
They're really intimidating birds.
I say that. Sorry, I just saw a facial expression for someone on camera. I didn't actually, but it was it was close. I felt like it. All right, chased by an animal that's not a dog.
Have you, Caroline, been chased by an animal, not a dog?
Yeah, I got chased by a koala.
What?
Yeah, because I'm like Curious George, and I heard a rustle. We were walking back from dinner. We're on Phillip Island, and we're walking back from dinner, and it was dark, and I'm like, oh, that sounds like a koala in the bush. And I got my phone out with my torch, and the koala went, nah, and started chasing me, and I had to run across the street in the middle of the night in the dark.
Yeah.
And I don't run, man. Like, it wasn't pretty.
I love the thought of a
Wow.
koala going, nah. Nah.
They get quite aggressive.
Yeah. That's chased by a koala. Nora, have you ever been chased by an animal that's not a dog? Have we got you there? We don't. Nora?
Are you talking to me?
I
It's
think
Nora.
so, yeah. Nora, have you
How
ever
are
been
you?
chased by an animal that's not a dog?
That's not a dog. No, I've been chased by a dog and I actually ended up falling into a ditch and breaking my ankle. That was rather an unpleasant experience.
Yeah, sorry to bring up those painful memories. Sorry to traumatise you with that. Yolanda, surely you've been chased by multiple animals. Have you ever been chased by something that's not a dog? We'll just get you off mute there. Yeah, there we go.
The scariest of which was a goose that had like big, the ones with the big like horn things on their heads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They used to bail us up at my friend's vineyard all the time.
Yeah, no, they're pretty. We had some geese at the Japanese gardens near where I grew up, and they were pretty vicious. They were feral.
They're nasty.
Yeah, they were.
I've been chased by a duck as well. That is scary.
Yeah.
They're very intimidating and loud. They get really loud.
Yeah, that's right. Ducks do. Any of those animals. You go, I'm here to feed you.
Yeah.
Like, I've got some bread. Like, leave me alone, man.
Yeah, I'm a nice person. Back off.
All right. Sorry. Thank you for the sidebar there. I just saw this post and it just got me fascinated by the concept of animals chasing us. Lynette wants to talk about being totally exhausted.
Mm.
And in those moments, you still have to cook food for your family because apparently making your children not eat is both annoying and frowned
Illegal.
upon.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
So
I don't know if it's illegal, but frowned upon. That's
frowned upon. Depends on how long
Yeah.
we're making them go without food. But you've got to cook for them. You've got some responsibilities, and you're like, oh, I just can't even. And we've got a go-to in that scenario, Suze. It's pretty common for us, and it's bacon and eggs.
Yeah, breakfast for dinner.
Because we know if we say to our kids bacon and eggs, they're like, yes. They're just thrilled, and it's just easy.
They'll all eat it. We don't have to
Yeah.
have any fights.
Because it's not even necessarily that it's easier to cook, I think, because there's a lot of things that are actually pretty relatively easy to cook, but would be like,
it's way quicker to cook.
but it's just like the process. It doesn't mentally overwhelm you. The thought of you cracking some eggs, putting some bacon in, and it just feels simple. But actually, I don't know. I find the timing of getting the toast cooked at the right time, the bacon cooked, and the eggs cooked so they're all perfect, because it can actually be a bit more complex than some of the other stuff, but it just feels simpler.
Mm.
So bacon and eggs, that's our go-to. Do we have any others? Do you have any others?
That's what I wrote down as my answer.
Yeah.
Was breakfast for dinner. That's the go-to.
Just anything. Oh, that's right. One of our children has had Wheat Bix for dinner.
Yeah.
But hey, like if it's good enough for one meal, it's good enough for another. If you're
100%.
totally exhausted, you've got nothing left, and you still got to cook dinner, what do you cook, Yolanda?
We do the same sort of thing. We call it Brinner. For
Brinner?
breakfast dinner. And anything like any kind of meat, sausages, bacon, whatever it is, as long as with eggs and hash browns, it's Brinner and it's good to go.
Yeah.
Oh, eggs and hash brown. I had a beautiful experience going out for breakfast the other day, where it was a meal that had hash brown and it had something else, or too much bacon in it for what I wanted to eat at the moment. But one of our sons came and he said, all I want is hash brown and a bit of bacon. I'm like, oh, we complete each
meals.
other.
Perfect.
My kids would live off hash browns. They love
Yeah.
them. All those potato gems that are basically mini hash browns.
Yes. Potato gem casserole. That was, I remember someone cooking that for me, just potato chips.
Yeah.
And, yeah. Anyway, maybe one day we'll get onto that. Thank you, Yolanda, for making me salivate over our Brinner. That's a good word, new word. It's good.
Nora, what do you do when you're totally exhausted for dinner?
My totally exhausted dinner. At the moment, I have to say I'm long overdue to do a grocery shop. I've just been putting it off because, lately the shops have been a bit bare of stock. I've just been living on tinned soup, but I've got quite an assortment of different ones. I like this organic lentil and vegetable one. And I mean, it's quite healthy too, and you just heat it up in a pot on the stove, quick and simple.
Beautiful.
Soup. Yes.
Beautiful.
It actually
I love that as a simple dinner, and I will sometimes do like a cheesy toast with it.
Yeah.
If I'm really feeling energetic.
little soldiers toast, kind of into the strips.
What's your exhausted dinner, Dave?
Well, one of the ones before my surgery was Kojak on a raft.
What's that?
Which is baked beans on toast.
Oh,
Kojak on raft.
Solid. Good
Oh,
protein hit. That's
yeah.
decent.
But the other one is jaffles. You just get the jaffle iron out, put your bread in, crack an egg in, put some chopped up bacon, onions, and all that. Put a lid on it, close it, wait 3 to 5 minutes, and pull them out. And then you've got these nice little triangles of bacon and egg, or pizzas, or whatever you want to put into them. Even Vegemite on toast works well in them.
Love it.
Do you know the toasty concept? My kids, when I was first telling them about it, were like not interested. They didn't want it. It sounded disgusting to want to eat it. Then I decided I would call it, because I love pizza, I call it a toasted sandwich pizza. And they're like, yeah, we'll have that. And then I made them toasties, and they thought they were, there's toasted sandwich pizzas.
Yeah, that's what they want.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Rename it. It works.
It's good.
You can add anything to them.
Yeah.
Anything. Leftovers are great.
Anything.
You have some leftovers.
Yeah,
spaghetti.
roast buds works really well.
Yep.
And even cold chips.
Nice.
Oh, I've never thought about
of
cold
that.
chips in a toasty, but that could work. I like the old chip sandwich. And
Yeah,
but
put
I
a
don't
couple
have
of chips in with a layer of grated cheese. And
Yeah.
a little bit of tomato sauce on it. Then put the lid on and close it down.
Cheese and
Yum.
sauce. They're the key
Solid.
elements to make anything in a toasty work. Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. All right.
Nice.
All right.
Very
Exhausted
nice.
dinners. Caroline, exhausted dinner for you.
We have two options. It's catch it or gourmet spaghetti jaffles.
Yeah, spaghetti jaffles.
And
Hang on.
gourmet is because we put cheese in it.
Yeah, that's right.
That makes
That's
it gourmet. And catch it is just you open the pantry and whatever falls out you catch and you eat it.
Catch it. I was going to circle back to that.
Yeah.
To go, hang on, I moved on like I understood what
I
you were
thought
saying.
you
and
said
then
ketchup.
yeah, I did
No,
too. And
Catch it.
yeah, we just get the bottle of tomato sauce and just chug, chug, chug.
Yeah, whatever
Where's
falls out. That's
Where's
good.
the ketchup? Where's the ketchup? Susie, what is your exhausted dinner option?
Okay, so you open a bag of corn chips, dump
Yep.
it on. Open a jar of salsa, dump it on. Put grated cheese on top. In the oven, it's nachos. Boom.
Oh,
It's
that is-
so
yeah,
easy.
well, cheese. Yeah, thank you for
And the whole family will eat it.
Yeah,
And-
that's exhausted.
Yeah.
It actually,
And then-
when you got kids, it's not even just about cooking. I think this is
Yeah.
why bacon really works for us. About
Yeah.
whether or not we're going to fight you in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Because you also can't take that fight.
Yeah. And if you put if you find you have an avocado that you've forgotten about and some sour cream that you've forgotten about and some leftover chicken and maybe
Perfect.
some lettuce, suddenly it's like this big meal. And if you use organic corn chips, it's like healthy.
Beautiful.
Yeah. You have
A truck.
Yeah. You don't have a truck,
No.
but do you avocado?
Oh.
Yes.
Everyone,
Oh.
this is what I want you to know I work with.
Yeah.
And I'm married.
Yeah, you win that one, Susie.
Yes, absolutely. Darn straight she wins.
Yes.
The blessing that she lives with each and every day. Sammy, exhausted dinner. What do you do?
Oh, this is a hard one because it's always exhausted, and usually I try and see if my partner will cook instead.
Yeah.
Right.
So whatever he'll
Yeah.
cook, that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, if I don't have to make it, all the better.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
All right.
I think something someone else cooked is the ideal
Yeah.
answer to the question.
Yeah. But at those times when I say to you, you go, "Can you cook?" I just can't do it. And I go, "What do you want?" She go, "Anything you cook. I will want it if you cook it." And I've had that experience. And then I found out that it's not completely true by when I cooked it, and nobody wanted to eat it.
We have standards.
Yeah, apparently. And apparently I don't meet them. So Chris has asked this question. Who's someone famous that you've seen in person, and did you go and say hi? So when I read this question, I thought about my experience with Elliot Goblet. And I'm not sure how many people remember Elliot Goblet, but he was a very dry stand-up comedy character. And I was doing stand-up comedy. I was emceeing a comedy event in a comedy room in Melbourne. And out in the audience, I saw the guy who plays the character Elliot Goblet watching me do stand-up. And I'm like, my gosh, no pressure. Like, this guy was a legend. I grew up with him on Hey Hey It's Saturday and, whatever. I was a fanboy. But I saw him in the crowd, but it was during the intermission. I went to the bathroom and Elliot Goblet was in the bathroom. Like, we were at the men's urinals together. And I'm like, I can't do the whole, oh my gosh, I'm a big fan, Elliot, thank you, it's so good. But because that would just be weird to do that at the urinal, right? And so I went, no, Luke, show some self-control, give the man some space. You can talk to him later. And it turns out that what I did in replacement of harassing him at the urinal was probably no better. Because what I did, thinking it was going to be better off, is I waited outside the toilet. So, apparently,
Stalker move.
That also feels creepy.
Yeah.
When you've been waiting outside the toilet to talk to somebody. And he was gracious and he was lovely, and we had a chat, and it was good and he was encouraging. But I realized at a certain point that actually you really got this wrong, Luke. So it's always made me think twice about going up to anybody.
Was that point when he
afterwards.
walked out of the bathroom and you had the camera there?
Yeah.
The photo?
Yeah, that was probably the bit where I realized it was too far. Have you seen someone famous and did you go say hi?
I have seen someone famous, and not only did I go and say hi, I whipped out my phone and did an interview. Rick Price at Singapore Airport.
Singapore Airport.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. You were gone, and you were sitting there waiting for our next flight, and you were gone for ages, and you came back and you went, I just interviewed Rick Price.
Yeah.
Like, you what? We're at the Singapore Airport.
Because we'd spoken to him a few times by then. So, I felt like he knows me.
Yeah.
He didn't.
We're besties.
He didn't know me, but he did do the interview.
He remembers you now.
Yeah, that's right. He tells the story differently to the way I tell it.
Seeing someone famous in public, and did you go up to them? Let's get your thoughts.
Yolanda, I'm sure you've seen someone famous. What happened?
Mine was just like a full day of disappointments because I was flying from Townsville back to Sydney, and I was flying on my own. I'd been up to see some friends and I was coming back, and I was in the Townsville airport, and I looked over and I was like, oh, wow, that guy really looks like the Honey Badger, and like Nick Cummings. I was like, oh, that's really cool. And then he sort of caught me staring at him, and I was like, oh, look away kind of thing. And then I looked over and saw people getting photos with him, and I was like, oh, it must actually be the Honey Badger. And I was like, that's really cool. So I picked up all my stuff, and I was like, all right, when I get through security, I'll go and get a picture with him, because my husband and I, we just think he is awesome. Yeah. Anyway, so I got through security, couldn't see him anywhere, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm not going to be a stalker. I'll just go wait at my gate. Sitting there, and he comes and sits right next to me, and he's obviously on the same plane. And I just froze. I couldn't say anything. He was sitting right there, and I was like, I can't even take a picture because he's going to see. So I kind of just was like, okay, he's obviously on the same flight. I'll wait till we get to Brisbane, and I'll take a picture and all that kind of stuff. Got to Brisbane, got off the airplane, couldn't see him anywhere, and I was like, dang it, I missed my chance. Like, Luke's going to be heartbroken, my husband, because he thinks he's just the best thing ever. Anyway, so I do my thing, kill time during the stopover, go sit down at my gate waiting for the plane to Sydney. And he comes and sits directly in front of me again. And he goes, oh, hi again. And I just froze again. And I was like, ooh, the honeycomb is talking to me. And I couldn't even get a word out. I probably looked like a weirdo. I was sort of like, and then we get on the plane and I'm in my head the whole flight, like as soon as we get off this plane, I'm going to go and get a photo because I will never see this human being again. Do you think I could find him when we got to Sydney?
Say no.
Of course not.
No. I got into the car and my husband's like, hey, like I hadn't seen him for about 2 weeks and I was just in the worst mood. What's the matter with you? I was like, you will not believe what happened. I explained it to my husband and he's like, oh, yeah, how could you? You could have had a photo with him.
Well, we knew this was your story, Yolanda, and so we've done something special for you today. And joining, no, kidding.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Could you imagine? She'd say nothing.
Yeah,
exactly. I would just freeze.
Time ever she'd go silent. But I had an experience like this in a press box where there was famous people everywhere. But I was at the SCG and I was just looking up at the cricket was on. It was there, Australia versus India in a one-day game. And I was looking at the TV where the Australian Open golf was on, and a voice behind me said, "Oh, so what's the scores? What's the latest?" And I turned around and it's Greg Chappell, like my childhood idol, and I just went, somebody else answered the question, and then he walked away, and that was all I did. I made these grunting sounds.
And then it plays in your mind over and over, and you feel like an idiot every time it happens.
Yeah. And between you and I, when are we ever lost for words?
Yeah, exactly. That's the most frustrating part.
In those experiences. Other times in our life, we probably wished we had no words come out of our mouth.
Exactly.
We didn't have to say much. I could have just said, they're leading by 2 strokes.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. I could have just said hi or can I get a photo?
My husband's a huge fan.
Exactly. But no, nothing came out.
On top of everything else, I think it's hilarious that there are some people going, honey badger? Who's called honey badger? If you don't know him.
This was before he was on The Bachelor, just so you know.
Yeah. There is a whole new audience for the honey
that's
badger.
True. Yeah, that's true. There is
and the undies ads.
Yeah.
Tradies undies.
Laura, have you ever come across someone famous? Did you go and say hi?
I've come across a lot of famous people, actually. I could take up your whole show talking about all the famous people I've bumped into over the years, but one of the most memorable experiences, I'm showing my age here, I'm going back to the 1980s, and I grew up on the Northern Beaches in Sydney, and we had a really good live music scene back then on the Northern Beaches. I mean, we used to go see Midnight Oil at the Royal Antler Parkway at Narrabeen, like before Midnight Oil was really big, But my friends and I used to like to try to get autographs from bands that we'd go see. And often we'd go to the DY Hotel, and back then it was known as either the Glider Room or the Venue. I don't know if any of your listeners grew up on the Northern Beaches in the 1980s, but it was sort of the stomping ground of a lot of great bands back in the day. And one night we saw Mental as Anything, and we got all their autographs, and we were talking to the support act, which was actually, they were called Flotsam Jetsam. They were only around for about 4 years in the 80s, from about 84 to 88. But they actually were the support band for Queen and Aha and Simply Red back then. And they said to my friends and I, oh, listen, we're all going off to a party after the gig. Why don't you girls come along? But you'll have to make your own way there. And we thought, okay. And he just said, it's going to be in North Sydney. And he gave us a street name. And so what we did, we thought, okay, this, go to a party, all these bands are going to be there. You never know who else is going to be there, right? So we get in a cab and we just tell the cab driver, go to North Sydney and go to this street, and drive up and down the street until we spot the right place, because we didn't know the street number. we were just looking for a house that had lots of music blaring out of it. And, you know, all the lights sort of vibrantly shining. And we found the house we thought it was, right? It really looked like there was a party going on in there. And we said, okay, we're there. So we get out and we just walk in like as if we're sort of meant to be there. I mean, we were sort of invited by the support band, but I mean, you know, it's not like we were sort of part of their crowd. So we walk in there and it was like this house that was on 3 levels. And on each different level, there was different music playing and drinks were flowing, and we're looking around. And then we see all the guys from Mental as Anything. And then, you know, the support band that was talking to us was there, Flotsam Jetsam. And then we're just thinking, okay, look, we can't go around asking for autographs now because we're going to look so out of place. I mean, it would have been really embarrassing. It wasn't the appropriate sort of time or place to be doing that. So we thought we're just going to enjoy this party and try to blend in because otherwise we might get kicked out, all right?
Yeah.
And then I sort of just, we were on one floor that had dancing on it and we were just dancing to some music, and I just look across and about a metre away from me was Michael Hutchence, and I could not believe it because I was a big NXS fan, you know, in the 80s. And this was probably in about 84, 85 or so. And I mean, because Michael Hutchence actually grew up on the northern beaches of Sydney. I don't know if you know that, but like the other members of NXS, they went to the Forest High School, and Michael Hutchence went to Killarney Heights High and Davidson High. And I grew up in Beacon Hill, which is sort of really close by. So, and there he was, and I just thought, you know, this is way before mobile phone days or any, you know what I mean? I just had to think, wow, I've been to a party and I was dancing a metre away from Michael Hutchence.
I can't believe you control yourself.
Yeah.
You control yourself well. We had a message from Joe who said if she ever saw someone from New Kids on the Block, then she would do more than say hi.
Yeah.
I don't know what's on her list, but just saying hi is not. Look, there's lots of experiences, Suze, of seeing these famous people and coming up and, you know, and sort of introducing yourself and saying hi. One of the best experiences I had was when I bumped into Chris Sebastian on a plane in Nashville, or going actually from LA to Nashville. And so not only did I say hi to Chris because he'd been on our show before, but we then organised and we hooked up and having a barbecue. And then one of the guys, I invited him to this place for the barbecue with someone in Nashville. And then there was somebody else he said, look, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to be there because I have to try and have a meeting with someone from Australia. And this American guy goes, what's his name? He said, oh, you won't know him. He's Australian. He said, oh, Chris Sebastian. He went, like his brother's Guy Sebastian, Australian Idol, and he's, you know, the voice. And he went, yeah. How do you know him? He goes, because he's coming to my place for the barbecue. You can meet him there. So we had this big group of Australians, including Chris Sebastian, hanging out at this barbecue. Beautiful brisket he cooked for us.
So good.
Beautiful brisket. There was hummingbirds there and everything. It was amazing.
All right, we have one last question we're going to face today.
Yep.
It's Debbie's
And we've got
question.
some prizes to give away too. We're going to do that, getting to know you soon.
Debbie's question: what is something you thought would be fun to try, but when you did, it was far from amazing and you'll never do it again?
Yeah. Okay. Debbie, there's a story behind this. There has to be a story behind this. What's something you thought would be fun to try, but when you did, it was far from amazing, and that's it, never again. What was your experience, Debbie?
Okay, 2 things. As a child, those great big round circle made out of wood with the metal bars that came out and everyone had a hand, ran round, then jumped on. Yeah. And it went round and round and round. Yeah, not good. Not a good experience.
I have no visual.
They were awful, but
as a UFO at our park.
Oh, those, yes. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, they were made out of wood, and they had enough arms that looked like octopus, but it divided it into segments, and everybody would run round, then jump on into a segment and hang on to the bar while it spun round till it stopped. Yeah. Not a good idea. The other thing was, as an adult, believe it or not, I love dolphins. I want to swim with the dolphins. It's on my bucket list. Went for a tour on a boat that I swear was no bigger than a bathtub. It only went around in the bay, did not go out into the sea at all, just in the bay. And I was so violently ill, just so violently ill. Just all I wanted to do was see dolphins, and even had a boom down on the side where you could get down, sit in the water there and see the dolphins up close. Could not handle it, was just trying to contain everything, hold it all together. My kids are coming up with crackers saying, we're having morning tea and do you want a cracker? And I'm like, go away, leave me alone. So nothing that goes round and round, and definitely no boats.
Oh,
right. There's a bit of trauma there. There's some therapy still needed, I assume. Suze, I light aeroplane. And I've had 2 experiences. One, and I'm going to say this because I say kind of, because you paid for an experience for me to have an aeroplane flying lesson. And I'm so glad I had that experience, but I wanted to vomit the whole time.
Yeah.
And I don't there's planes and there's small planes, and I did not feel safe or comfortable up there, especially when he said, your turn. It was just so traumatic. I've got no desire to go back up in a small plane ever again. But I appreciated the experience, but never again.
Yeah.
Suze, you?
Ferris wheel?
Ferris wheel?
Yeah. I don't like the heights. I don't feel safe. It just rolls around. I can see, Deb, you're enjoying this. Are you a Ferris wheel as well?
Yeah, I cannot. It just moves too slowly. I'd be honestly better on a roller coaster than a Ferris wheel, because the Ferris wheel, it's like, oh, look, all of that beautiful stuff. And I have a 6-year-old who is not afraid of anything. And so she's hanging off the edge, and I'm like, oh, please. Yeah, honestly.
Yeah.
And then they stop the thing, and you're left there dangling.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, no way.
Really? I didn't know there'd be. I thought Susie was completely weird.
No, she's not. She's normal. Still good.
Other things? Wow. Do you have other things that you'd never do again, Deb, that you thought were going to be fun?
I'm trying to rack my brain. I'm sure I've done stuff that. Yeah.
Do you want me to go through my list and you see if we have the same list? Okay. Watching scary movies.
Yes, I can't deal with anything that jumps out at me.
Okay, so Deb,
yeah.
Have you ever gone to the cinema and spent the whole time hiding behind the row of chairs in front of you because the movie was too scary?
No, but I've spent the movie looking at my phone or doing hiding my eyes.
Anything to not look at the screen. Yeah.
Unlike Susie, who has hidden down on the ground behind the chairs.
I can understand that. I think probably my only thing was whoever I was with, that I was trying not to embarrass them too much. But, yeah.
I didn't. Right. The other one that I had was water skiing.
Oh yeah, I failed completely at that. But
yeah, thought it would be fun. Wasn't.
No.
But you're not supposed to water ski with your teeth.
True. Rope things where you're just sort of sitting in the tube or whatever and holding on, but they're actually trying to get up on your feet. No, that's not fun. That's not fun.
And it requires so much leg strength, from what I understand.
It does, knee strength for sure.
I just obviously don't have that.
You and I get each other, Deb.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
All right. Let's get some others on the list. Caroline.
What's something you thought would be fun, but when you did it, it wasn't?
Okay, so 2 things. The first one, for our honeymoon, we went treetop walking, with the bridge through the trees. I ended up just hanging onto a pole and waiting for my husband to get back. Because I hated it. It was so scary. And then he went higher, and I'm like, nah, that's not going to happen.
It would have been easier, I would imagine, to detach the pole and unscrew and unbolt and unweld, and to move you with the pole.
Yeah. When he was up in the tower, someone said, "Does that koala down there belong to you?" And he's like, "Yeah, she's petrified."
That koala.
Yeah. Because I was hooking onto that tree. The second one, have you ever seen those big inflatable things that are on the water?
Yes.
Like the jumping castles that are on the water? They look like they're fun. Getting on those things is terrible, especially for a heavier person. And then trying to walk on them, you just feel so unstable. And then I fell off I think twice, and then I just swam around and waited for everyone to get off. I just swam around in the water. I wasn't getting back on again.
Hey, now
It was a nightmare.
before we wrap things up, we do have to go to producer Semi, because as soon as you read this question, there was a very distinct answer that you had come to mind. What was your experience?
Well, my stepmom, bless her heart, was super excited and she spoke this activity up. And I'm sure, because she loves it, she absolutely loves it.
Yeah.
So there are many people who do. But I think my expectation had risen. And then when we actually did it, nah.
Oh,
Okay.
no.
All right. So now you've built the tension. What was it?
Have you heard of float therapy? Where they make
in the tank thing?
And the water has like lots of Epsom salts and magnesium. So you're floating and it's supposed to make you buoyant. I got so bored. And I was like, oh, okay, it kind of looks like you're going into space. But then you just lie there.
See, if someone said to me, Sammy's going off and she has to remain still in a small space for an extended period of time, I'd say, don't do it, Sammy. You can't actually do it.
I'd be worried.
You
I'd be
are
worried
too
my
hyper.
claustrophobia would kick in.
Yeah, so you would be claustrophobic. Sammy would just be there is nothing to do in here.
I was like, can I see things in the ceiling?
Yeah.
Like, but they turn the lights off. They've got some meditation music going, and you just lie there.
Yeah. Sammy would try and find a way to sneak a book in there or something.
If I could read in the dark, I totally would have.
You'd bring floating candles to the next one. And
Ooh, see?
Oh, that'd be pretty.
I like this plan.
yeah. So now Sammy's ready to go back. So now it's no longer a space where you have to go and do nothing. Now it's a space where you get locked away and no one can stop you doing what you want to do.
Yes, I like this plan.
Yeah.
There was one point where I was just like, can I touch all of the different places around me? Like, just kind of like,
You are such a hyperactive child. Like, what's this button do? What's this button do? What's this button do? What's this button do? What about this one? What's this button do? What about that one? What's this button do?
That's why there's so many buttons in radio. I can push all of them.
Let's get to know someone and give away some
All
prizes,
This
Suze.
is our last thing before we've got to run because we are out of time. But I've got some questions here. I've got 5 of them actually.
All right, Deb, let's do it. With Luke and Susie, it's faith, family, culture, and we are going to get to know Deb and give away some free stuff. Suze. Deb is about to play. Deb, don't be too intimidated, but Susie is a pretty vicious quiz master.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think this the last one's probably the one that might throw you the most. We'll see how you go.
Okay. We'll see.
5 questions. Just first, you've got 30 seconds to answer all of them. First thing that comes to your mind, you're choosing between 2 things each time. And if your answers match Luke's, you win. And let's face it, if they don't match Luke's, you're probably still going to win anyway.
I'll try and put my Luke thinking on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know who you are or where you came from.
Getting to know you, getting to know all about you.
All right, Deb, here we go. Would you rather work from the office or work from home?
Home.
Would you rather play sport for fitness or do a workout?
Neither. Workout.
Would you rather a roast or a barbecue?
Which one am I not cooking? Barbecue. Yep.
Maths or English?
Maths.
And a bird eat out of your hands or a fish eating at your feet?
Oh, bird out of my hand.
That's the
All
5
right.
questions.
Okay, let's see how we rank. How much are we in sync here?
Okay, work from home. You've said from home. What did you
from
say?
home.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who needs people if you can avoid them, Deb?
Oh, exactly. I'm a bookkeeper, so.
All right.
Good.
Playing sport or doing a workout? You said doing a workout, Luke.
Sport.
No, you'd rather play
Yeah,
sport.
absolutely. Give me a ball to chase, and I don't even realize half the time I'm running. I do realize eventually I'm out of oxygen. But
See, I don't have that coordination. Like, throw a ball at me, it'll hurt me.
Yeah, my injury record would say it's the same for me, but it's just never stopped me. Yeah.
A roast or barbecue. You're trying not to cook, so you said barbecue. What would you go, Luke?
Yeah, look, I've gone barbecue, but really good barbecue. I love when Susie cooks up a roast, but if there's a real time and effort to put into some beautiful barbecuing, yeah, it's amazing.
Maths or English? Which one did you choose, Deb?
Maths.
Yeah, I can't spell. So when we play word games, Deb, like whether it's Scrabble or whether it be, what was the last one? We're playing Boggle.
Oh, yeah.
Then the way I beat Susie is if she has to score twice my score. So if I score 100, she has to score 201 to win.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I still don't win. He beat me in a game of Boggle convincingly under those rules.
Yeah, I can see my 6-year-old liking those rules as well, Luke. So
Yeah. I came out with what I thought was a decent list of words, but she had none of them, and I'm like, oh no.
You're like, uh-oh.
All my words were 4 and 5 letter words, and that meant she had 6, 7, and 8 letter words. And I was going down.
Okay, last one. Birds eating out of your hands or fish eating off your feet? You went for the birds, I think, Deb.
Yeah.
Yeah. Suze, which one do you think I would go for?
Birds out of the hand.
Why? I like my fish. Why would I go for birds?
I don't know. I'm just guessing.
No, well, I went for birds because it's so annoying having a fish at your feet that I can't catch. Like when I can...
and you can't eat it either, right?
Well, eventually
it's frowned upon when you go to those massage places where they put the fish at your feet and you have a net. They don't like that.
You do that. That'll be the best. That'll be the best chance I have of catching something. That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah,
If it's anything out of my hand, if it is a chicken ready for dinner, then that's different. Does the turducken count, Sue?
I think you've done pretty well there, Deb.
Yeah.
How about we give you some money to be able to go and buy something with gifts of meaning, Luke? What do you reckon?
I think that'll be great. So $50 to spend. It's to gracifyme.com. Buying a gift can be stressful because you want something that communicates a great message to the person that you're giving it to, but you don't have all the time and money in the world. So at program sponsor gracifyme.com, you get to choose the perfect gift, like the coffee bean gift or retro 80s mugs or handcrafted journals, just to name a few.
And then you get to hand select affirmation cards to communicate their value and honour their character. So to feel great about the gift you buy for someone special and to add value to their day, shop at gracifyme.com.
Lovely. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Fantastic.
Beautiful. It's been great having you with us today. I think that draws us to a close, Luke.
It does draw us to a close at the end of another day. We can't wait to catch you with our Luke and Susie Discourse live on socials and YouTube next week. We'll catch you then.
Bye.
Bye.